Water Wars. Tensions run high on the ocean world of Mon Calamari, where two separate peoples, the aggressive squid-like Quarren and their peaceful neighbor, the Mon Calamari, struggle to maintain a fragile coexistence. Adding to this strife, the king of the Mon Calamari has been found mysteriously murdered, leaving his young son, Prince Lee Char, to guide his people alone. But the Quarren race will not accept the new ruler as their king. Senator Amidala and her Jedi bodyguard have arrived to help resolve the matter and to avoid plunging the planet into civil war.
Once again, Bucketheads, Mayvar Tigar. Welcome to the 133rd Riff Tamsin riffing episode of Mandovision. Nargai Tom, and thank you so much for checking out this small, independent Star Wars podcast. Remember, of course, the best way to reach out to us is on social media at Mando_Vision on Twitter and Instagram. Email the show at mandovisiontom@gmail.com. And please make sure you're liking, subscribing, sharing this show with all the other Mandalorians in your covert. We truly, truly appreciate you taking the time to do that. Thank you in advance for doing so. Welcome aboard. This is, I guess technically we're going into the second week without the Book of Boba Fett going on. But as I record this, it's only been 1 week. And it feels a little strange. It's like you're sort of in that weird nebulous period between series. And I'm missing the Boba Fett. Are you missing the Boba Fett? And it's only a matter of time before I start rewatching both the Book of Boba Fett and the previous 2 seasons of The Mandalorian, because that's what I do when I need to enjoy my Star Wars. I know a lot of people are very upset that we didn't get a Kenobi trailer over Super Bowl weekend, and you know, I guess I'm disappointed as well. I didn't have high expectations for it to happen in the first place, and you know, as we sort of preached a little bit on the prior episode when we were dissecting Boba Fett, you know, let's take time to enjoy what we got, and stop looking so forward ahead. You know, this constant thing in society where we're just like on to the next thing. It's tough. It's a tough way to live your life when you're just consuming something so quickly and you move on to the next. You're a lot like Riff Tamsin, the big giant shark ambassador of the Separatist Confederacy, Confederacy of Independent Systems, excuse me, but the Separatists. We saw the way he was tearing through troopers in this episode. My goodness, each one and on to the next. My goodness, let's not consume our culture, our pop culture, like Riff Tamsin. Let's savor it. Let's slice into that bit of steak or that bit of tofu, if that's your cup of tea, and savor it. Let it linger on your palate. Let it coat your tongue and just bask in the flavors, the rich, deep flavors of what we got already, and stop trying to get, prodding Disney to move faster. No. Let's savor what we got. Let's be happy with what we got. We want them to take their time with the product. We want to get a good show. We want to get good trailers. We want to be excited about things. They're probably hard at work putting in visual effects and doing all these other things. And I think I even saw recently there was another casting announcement for the show, which I was like, are they still filming it? So, there's probably things going on in post-production right now. So let's pump the brakes. Let's have some fun with what we got. and it'll be here before we know it, and that's the exciting part of it, right? So we are back to Star Wars: The Clone Wars Rewatch Mondays, and we are kicking off today's episode with the start of season 4. This is the Water War episode, and let's break down. Let's go ahead and break down the plot now, okay? The water planet Mon Calamari is on the brink of civil war. Senator Amidala and her Jedi protector Anakin Skywalker take the side of the Mon Cal, while Separatist Representative Riff Tamson spurs on the Quarren, and basically we gear up for civil war on Mon Cala, aka Doc, if you are in, or Das, if you are into that iteration of Mon Cala's history. Mon Cal is a great planet. It's rich in Star Wars lore as far as that goes. The Mon Cala people, big deals in the original trilogy and throughout the sequels as well. Admiral Akbar is a fan favorite. We all know that. It's a trap. We can't get enough of that stuff. Admiral Akbar is awesome, and Admiral Akbar makes his debut in Star Wars: The Clone Wars as a captain in the Mon Cala Defense Force, and I tried to do a little research on this because the sort of political alignment of Mon Cal is tricky to me, and maybe I'm overthinking things a little bit here, but there's two dominant species on the planet, right? You have the Mon Calamari. You have, or the Mon Cal. I think they actually prefer Mon Cal now. The Mon Calamari might be like an old, outdated title for the characters, for the people, for the species. I think they would prefer going by Mon Cal. All right, so you have the Mon Cal, and you have the Quarren. And we know about the Quarren. The Quarren are a prideful, proud kind of people, and the Mon Cal are industrious, right? They are known for, well, actually, take it back. The Quarren are known for building ships too, but of different designs, right? Of different looks and sleekness levels. But these are the two dominant species of the planet. But it seems to be, from what I could discern, is that it's always a Mon Cal as the ruler of the two people. Which I would feel like if you were the Quarren, maybe you wouldn't be that cool with that. Especially because you have a very fragile piece to begin with, but perhaps those are the terms, because maybe the Quarren are a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more have a little bit more warlike tendencies. So the Mon Cala president is there. The Mon Cal president, excuse me, is there to kind of king or queen is there to kind of keep that cooler heads prevail in times of distress between the two species and cultures. Obviously, that makes it rife for Count Dooku to try and influence to get a civil war. You get the Quarren on your side, and then you encourage civil war, and that way you have another planet on your side. So another episode where Count Dooku is directly interfering into the democracy of another species, of another culture, and that's where we get a new villain for this 3-part Mon Cal trilogy, Riff Tamson, the giant shark-like ambassador of the Confederacy of Independent Systems. There's not a lot on Riff in databanks. I looked it all up, and it's basically all that's here is in these first 3 episodes, this Mon Cal trilogy. So yeah, we'll spend some time talking about Riff Tamson. Again, I think he's a good look. I like the voice actor they have playing him, but it's an interesting character, and and I don't know really what else to say about him at this particular moment, because there is stuff I want to get to as we get into the breaking down of the episode. But let's go ahead and finish doing our introduction for the episode. We already gave you the plot. This week's episode, it's directed by Dwayne Dunham, who he's done some editing on Return of the Jedi. He was sort of a guest director for this episode. Their episode is written by Jose Molina, and I believe he writes all 3 parts of this Mon Cala trilogy. Our principal cast for this week: Matt Lanter is Anakin Skywalker, Corey Burton is Count Dooku and Nosari, Gary Anthony Williams is Riff Tamson, Art Butler is Captain Akbar, Phil Lamar is Kit Fisto, Ashley Eckstein is Ahsoka Tano, Adam MacArthur is Prince Lee Char, Catherine Tabor is Padme Amidala, D. Bradley Baker is back as the Clone Troopers, a Mon Cala commander, and Quarren Soldier number 2. Anna Graves is Senator Mina Tills. Tom Kane is your narrator, and Terrence T.C. Carson steps back up to the plate as Mace Windu. Our Jedi fortune cookie this week: when destiny calls, the chosen have no choice. We are referring to the Ascendant Prince Lichar, who, after his father's assassination, is now attempting to step into his father's place to lead the Mon Cal and sort of bring the Quarren back into the fold. Right? It's very tenuous, and Rift Hampson's obviously stirring the pot. He wants dissent. He wants the peace to be broken. He wants civil war, and he wants to take over Mon Cala for the Confederacy. So we're not in favor of that. But this arc is basically about the sort of the stepping up of Lichar to become the king and bring those people back together and sort of begin the legacy of the Mon Cals throughout the rest of the Star Wars trilogies, right? Throughout the OG trilogy, they're a big deal in all the eras. Really, I was gonna try to limit it to just other things, but no, they're a big primary species. And if you're a fan of the comic books, we spend more time with Lichar during the Empire days, where Princess Leia attempts to free Lichar because things happen earlier in the comic books, in the Darth Vader comic books, when they go back to Mon Cala after Scarif happens. The Empire not real happy that a bunch of Mon Cal ships were involved in the battle over Scarif. So the Empire goes to rain holy terror on the Mon Cals. King Lichar is taken prisoner, and then later on during the Rebellion era, Princess Leia attempts to mount a rescue of King Lichar. So this is sort of like an introduction episode, but it's something that Star Wars canon goes back to quite a bit, and we spend more time with the Mon Cal, the Quarrens, and their whole unique political structure throughout the comic book series, which has been a lot of fun too. And then that sort of tails into like the Resistance era as well, as some of these characters pop back up again. Infamously, Admiral Akbar has a rather inglorious death in The Last Jedi, and I have feelings about that, but we won't get into those right now. So yeah, again, a lot going on in Mon Cala. I can't stress enough what a big deal planet is, and it's good that we're spending these 3 episodes. Again, it's a weird political structure that I don't quite necessarily understand all the ins and outs of, but it works for them, and I guess that's the bottom line. This episode of the show, this Water War episode, has some interesting visual choices. We will talk about those as we get to them. There's one scene in particular where I just was sort of like, okay, all right, that's a choice. That is a choice. It's also interesting. A lot of people seem to have some question about the actual functionality of a lightsaber under water, but hey, if the show says they work, they work. I don't have any real qualms about that. I'm not going to get into a logistical argument about how a lightsaber works underwater. If it works, it works, and that's all that matters there. Since we're talking about Rift Hampson, I do want to give a little bit more detail on him. Again, not much known. If you want to know about Rift Hampson, watch these 3 episodes. But he is a male Karkadon from his homeworld of Kakaris, and that is kind of the extent of him. Not a big deep biography on this character. No one's gone back and done much with him prior to these 3 episodes, or obviously post these 3 episodes. A spoiler for what may happen in the 3rd episode of this trilogy as we get to it. All right, I think we're going to go ahead and dive into the episode. Get ready. We open up with a lot of politics, but we quickly get to the pew-pews, and that's what we're waiting for. So that means you got to strap them on, especially since we're going underwater, all right? Make sure you have on your special scuba helmet, because it's that time. Strap on your buckets. Let's go.
The prince's rule has been preordained. Down with this monarchy! We'll defend our right for a Mon Cala king!
We want a Quarren king! Down with the Mon Cala! Power to the Quarren!
I am dedicated to serving the Quarren, as well as my own people, the Mon Calamari.
Silence!
You haven't earned the right to speak at this gathering.
You have no say in the matter, Ambassador. You are only here as an observer for the Separatists.
Do not forget, I am here at the request of the Quarren because you, Captain, demanded the presence of the Republic.
All right, so got a lot going on right there at the get-go. We hear Rift Hampson. We hear Captain Akbar. We hear a lot of people upset. We also hear Lichar say Mon Calamari. So I was not correct. I had forgotten he said that. So yes, that term is still in play. again, you're seeing a lot of the political dissonance here. The situation is very volatile, very tumultuous. Lee Char is in a bad position, and clearly the Separatists are stirring the pot, and they have made promises to the Quarren. What I like about this beginning here, as we're seeing Riff Tamson for the first time, and again, this doesn't hold in the second and third episodes of the show as much, but in this episode in particular, I think they do a really nice job with Riff being shark-like. I mean, the way he's constantly in movement in this sequence, and then throughout the episode, sharks don't stay still, and if they do, it's because they're dead. So seeing Riff move around, just constantly circling in this, again, it's a circular chamber that they're in, so the circular motions help, but it also lends more to like what we know about sharks and their sort of patterns when they're sort of on the hunt and when they're sort of being aggressive, right? Circling their prey kind of situation. And again, even when he's on later on in the episode, we'll probably play the bit where Tamson's on the comm with Count Dooku. He's circling around the holoprojector as well. Again, because like the idea of sharks in movement, constantly in movement, perpetual movement for a shark, something I really liked. So I thought that was a really neat little visual there. In the meantime, as this debate's going on, we see Anakin and Padme in their deep submersible gear. Got the wetsuits, the helmets, everything on. And they're just sort of shaking their heads in disbelief of what they're hearing. And Padme's about to try and step up and let cooler heads prevail to no effect as the Quarren basically shout her down. And we see just how desperate this situation has become, and obviously the influence of the Confederacy.
This civil war, is it inevitable?
Sadly so, Master Yoda.
The Separatist ambassador came here to stir up the Quarren, and that's exactly what he did.
It's only a matter of time before the Quarren withdraw from the Republic.
I suspect behind this, Count Dooku is.
The Mon Calamari system is still part of the Republic. This planet must not fall into Separatist hands. I'll dispatch Master Fisto and your Padawan Tano, along with a company of clones. They'll be at your side by day's end. In the meantime, Captain, assemble the Mon Cala troops and prepare for a Quarren assault.
Okay, so Captain Akbar is returning to his people, to the ambassador, or is it senator? I think she's the senator, and immediately Char and kind of delivering the news. So let's check in, because this sort of addresses Lee Char's age and his ability to lead the people, right? This is sort of what we're gearing him up for. This goes back to our Jedi Fortune Cookie. When destiny calls, the chosen have no choice. But it seems like they're more set on protecting the young king or prince at this point, because he's not coronated, than they are at trying to let him lead the people. It's an interesting sort of back and forth here, as Captain Akbar clearly has a different set of plans in his mind initially.
The troops are being assembled, Senator.
Let's hope we don't need them, Captain. I'm entrusting the safety of Prince Lee Char to your hands. You must remain at his side at all times as his personal bodyguard.
Senator, if the boy is
We are on the verge of a civil war, Captain. And that boy is the supreme commander of Mon Cala's military. It's up to you to see that he remains safe and that he can handle the job.
With due respect, Senator, the prince is not ready to lead an army. He needs training.
You have your orders, Captain.
So as the Mon Cala prepare for the war, we now cut to another part of the planet where the Quarren are more concentrated. They're prepping their forces as well, and we're going to get that conversation between Riff Tamson and Count Dooku. Let's check it out. Oh, and again, reminder, this is another one of those sequences that I really enjoy, with Tamson swimming in circles like a shark would. Maybe I'm being too... maybe I just like that comparison too much. But if you're going to have an alien who's like a shark, make him be like a shark. Sort of my thought on the matter. Here we go. Check it out.
The army has assembled, Count Dooku.
Well done, Tamson. What about the Quarren leader?
The Quarren leader is on board 100%. He will deliver the planet into your hands, just as you said he would.
Very good, Commander. In the end, control of this planet will be in your hands. Proceed as planned.
So from this point, the battle begins in earnest. The Mon Cala forces against the separatists, the Quarren, the whole shebang. Riff Tamson's in the mix, And of course, for the for the Mon Cala, we also have Anakin and Padme. They're sort of trying to keep an eye on Lee Char, but it's Anakin. He's gonna get in the mix, and he does. And at one point, he's gonna lose a helmet, and this whole thing's gonna go on. But eventually, Republic forces do come in. Ahsoka, Kit Fisto, and an army of clones decked out in scuba armor. Pretty rad looking stuff. And again, a great action sequence, good visuals here. One of the sequences I really like in this chunk of the episode is Riff Tamson in his sort of pursuit of Lee Char. Again, I think doing a very decent job of sort of appropriating the characteristics of a shark and the way a shark attacks, and eventually Ahsoka and Lee Char end up in these tubes that the Mon Cala use to go back and forth. I don't know how these tubes work necessarily, but I assume that it's sort of like a forced current situation. So you're able to travel faster through these tubes than you would just out in the open ocean. So they're in these tubes, and Riff Tamson's trying to smash his face into them, like we've seen in countless shark movies. The one that popped in my head was immediately Deep Blue Sea. Not because it's a good movie, but just because I've seen it so many times, and it's so completely ridiculous. Plus, it has the Star Wars connection with Mace Windu, a.k.a. Samuel L. Jackson. So that made me... that was something I thought about. There's another sequence in this episode too. Actually, I think it's earlier in this sequence where Lee Char is leading Anakin and Padme through part of this network of tubes, and they have some Mon Cala soldiers coming up behind them, and the Separatists trigger some kind of explosion on one of the underwater cliffs, and it comes down and crashes through this tube. And okay, I get it. I'm not an aquatics person. I don't know much about how those sort of things work, but the tube, the rock falls through, crashes, busts this tube, and then the Mon Cala soldiers fall out like they're plummeting to their death. But I'm pretty sure if they just pump their legs, they'd be okay, because they are in fact already in the ocean. Now again, if we have someone who knows more about force currents and things like that, maybe they're caught in some kind of deadly riptide that pulls them to the bottom. Not quite sure. Help me out. Not a water guy. I just don't know. but yeah. So again, let's go back up to Riff Tamson though. Like I said, I like that chase sequence. I like him smashing his head into the tube and eventually busting through it because he wants to eat himself some young Mon Cala prince.
They are returning to their ships. We seem to have won this round.
We are lucky to have survived the first assault.
They could have easily overrun us with their droids.
The droids are taking up position in the coral, probably amassing for another assault.
Why would they hide in the coral?
Well, Anakin, that's because they have like these giant super droids that are part monster, part machine. And we're going to hear all about those in a second. They're apparently from Riff Tamson's homeworld, but I'm going to let him do a little talk about this. Check it out.
Your Aqua droids are no match for the Mon Calamari. What makes you think these secret weapons you've brought from your home world will fare any better?
They are half machine, half monster. We call them Hydroid Medusas. They are invincible.
And they kill a lot of clones in Mon Cala in this next big sequence here, where the sort of curtain of the dark side kind of falls over Mon Cala here as we're getting ready to close out this first episode here in our Mon Cala trilogy. The Hydro Medusa thingamabobbers, they look pretty cool. They look like big jellyfish, right? So they have like those dragging tendrils, and if they hit you, it's over. They fry you, and not cool. You don't want to do that. You don't want to deal with them. The lightsabers can't cut them. So yeah, they are a pretty powerful force to be reckoned with in this sequence here. So as our forces are on the run from the Medusas, we do get to see classic Kit Fisto flash that big winning smile at us as he crashes his little submersible vehicle into one, seemingly disabling it. I'm not quite sure. I mean, we see it explode, but we don't exactly see like that Medusa sink down to the bottom of the ocean. But Kit's happy with the result, and that's good news. And he's basically buying time for our heroes and the forces of the Mon Cala to escape from this latest assault. And it's not looking good for our heroes. But the young Prince Lichar is about to learn an important lesson, so let's go ahead and have our friends tell it to him.
Thanks to you, Padawan Tano, and to these brave soldiers. I wish I could have done more for my people. Maybe then we would have been spared all of this. The illusion that I could actually lead in my father's place.
Your father would be proud of you.
Proud? We lost.
Today, you learn the hardest lesson a commander can learn. How to live to fight another day.
So there you go. A wild, woolly, weird episode of Star Wars The Clone Wars, kicking off Season 4 with this Mon Cala trilogy. It's a lot of really great action sequences in the episode. I feel like I'm underemphasizing how enjoyable the episode is. It's very fast-paced. It's a lot of good sequences. Underwater action, if you're into that sort of thing, I always was. Those were my favorite episodes of G.I. Joe back in the day. And of course, I mean, who didn't take their Star Wars toys into the bathtub with them? Did I say too much? Maybe. So yeah, again, one of the few things in Star Wars we hadn't seen too much of was underwater action, at least in live action. So kind of getting to explore that, exploring Mon Cala is very, very interesting. The relations between the Quarren and the Mon Cals are unique. That political structure is insanely unique. I don't fully understand it, but again, if it works for them, who am I to say otherwise? But yeah, this is just the opening salvo in our Mon Cal trilogy, and this is again the opening salvo in Season 4 of our Star Wars: The Clone Wars rewatch, which means we are officially past the halfway point, right? And things only escalate from here. And what's really, really exciting about it is if we can stay on track, if we can stay on target, we will get to the point where we are going to get a lot of Mandalorian history episodes laid out before we get into Season 3 of The Mandalorian, which I think is going to work out really, really well because based off of my speculation, we're going to spend a lot of time talking about Mandalore in the new season of The Mandalorian. So doing that Mandalorian history lesson as we work our way through Star Wars: The Clone Wars, I think that's going to be really, really great. And again, fingers crossed. Again, it's still a lot of seasons and a lot of episodes to get to, but there's a good chance that we're going to get a lot of Mandalorian stuff in there in 2022. So stay tuned for all that exciting stuff as we work our way through 2022, and be back here very, very soon for the continuation, the middle chapter of the Mon Cal trilogy to kick off Season 4 as a sort of unlikely assistance comes to the Mon Cal in the next episode. Now, granted, the title will give it away. So if you already know what's coming next, then it's not that big a surprise. But I thought it was a really neat little thing, and we'll talk more about it in next week's episode to sort of have this other set of aquatic people come into play for this sort of mini civil war on Mon Cal. All right, let's go ahead and start to wrap the show up because I don't think I have much else left to say about this episode. It's a pretty straightforward one, right? There's not a lot of subtext to get into. Lichar learning the lessons that he learns, that's a big one. What he's just taught from Akbar right there. Don't waste your life. Don't waste the life of the people that you're commanding in a battle. Sometimes falling back is the right decision. Sometimes falling back, living to fight another day is the right decision, especially when the odds are overwhelmingly against you as they were with the Medusas. So, again, pay attention to Lichar's kind of evolution. Now, again, he's not a character we spend a ton of time with in the Clone Wars or even in Rebels by any chance. But if you read the Star Wars comics, Darth Vader and the main Star Wars comic in particular, you see that we connect back with him later on in his life. and kind of see how his reign goes during the tumultuous period of the Empire and the Rebellion. So interesting stuff. And all right, that's all I'm going to say about that. I'm not going to push the comics on you any more than I already have. All right, let's give a big shout out to the official Mandovision Maniacs, which you can become at patreon.com/Mandovision. Join the Maniacs and gain access to bonus content. Thank you to our current Patreons, the Aspen Hill Chody, the Batman Abejo, Jeff Nail. Jeff is co-host in the Ring and Ear. Check them out. It's a great music podcast. Thanks to Evil Circle, the evilest of all circles, the Squid Master General, Mr. Brian Broussard, who'd be right at home on this episode of Star Wars The Clone Wars, the New Jersey Devil, Mark Wegemer, our very own Joker and Harley Quinn, Brian and Krista of Pride Brewing Company here in San Diego and now Baltimore, Maryland, the Beer Hop Brigadier General, Jesus Beer Hops, the Silent Assassin, he who shall not be named, and Syndicate Ram, co-host of Come On, It's Still Good. Check out that podcast. It's a lot of fun. All right, let's get out of here. We're going to be back insanely soon to cover part 2 of the Mon Cal trilogy. So in the meantime, remember, this podcast can only end one way. This is the way.
This is the way.
This is the way. This is the way.